Hello, welcome back to Living Resonance. I'm Monifa, and today we are exploring the cosmic current of the gene keys and the lunar cycle so you can cultivate your voice, live your genius, and weave your legacy in harmony with these current frequencies. So today we're currently in the lunar phase of the new moon in Gemini, which is Gene Key 16, which is the same as Human Design Gate 16. So we are experiencing themes of the shadow of indifference, the gift of versatility, and the Siddhi of mastery. This is the genius of learning to really be with the things that make you uncomfortable and creating something magical out of it. So at this shadow level, the gene key 16 is indifference. And what's happening here is that it's a diffusion of responsibility. I have this key in my IQ sphere of my hologenetic profile. And what that means essentially is that this is how I think beyond how I feel, right? So in the shadow, it becomes this feeling of trying to keep things out, not wanting to feel how other people are making me feel. And so this can look like not caring about what's happening to other people, not necessarily not caring, but basically not paying attention so I don't have to feel anything, right? And so it can get really shadowy really quickly. This is a concept for everyone when we are turning a blind eye to what's happening to other people of other cultures or other situations, and we say it's not our problem. They should figure out all on their own. Um, this is that indifference that creates a waste of possibility and resource, right? And so there's not the frequency itself is not the problem. It's usually how we are perceiving and dealing and sharing and giving from the frequency. So if we're coming from the shadow, we're coming from this place where there's not enough, we're afraid, and we are trying to avoid, right? And so when we are looking at the shadow level to better understand it, the better we can recognize it and recognize the potential to live the genius, which is versatility. And it's powerful, right? When I live this experience, I'm like, wow, I'm brilliant, right? If I'm not living this experience, I'm like, oh, nothing's meaningful. Life sucks, you know? It becomes a whole nother situation, right? And so when we're living in difference, we're living the diffusion of responsibility. It's literally in the title of the chapter. And it's this fear that if you leave that comfort zone of what you know, what you already know you can deal with, what you already know you have the capacity for, if you embrace any kind of change, then something bad will happen. And maybe not be any kind, but might just be the kind that would put you closer to living your genius, right? So indifference is the energy field that gets you to focus that precious, amazing life force energy on what's not important. The inessential is taking over. And in this way, it's about taking your attention away from what's happening right now, what's happening in, and that can be even what's happening in the world. And therefore, it doesn't allow you to tap into the limitless potential of the present moment, right? So as long as you're focused on the things that aren't important, that aren't what's going on, that people are dealing with, then you aren't able to focus on the things that are meaningful and matter to others. So it creates a not great situation if you're somebody who provides service or somebody who provides art or as a service or somebody who provides a business as a service, right? You have to be tuned into what's happening to know how to serve people. So you're doing this and you're maybe doing whatever you think will work outside of, doing something new. Um, out of your comfort zone, some kind of change that other people aren't doing is another way to look at that. So you may um, run into this, and I see a lot of people do this because it's important, especially as we're building more and more people who are on the internet and new businesses and have more ability to create them, right? The AI, so many things are helping us add even more to that. So if that's happening, then how are we allowing that to shape how we do things, right? If you're doing it out of love and enjoyment, then that's one thing. If you're doing it out of fear, then a lot of times you start latching onto things that aren't useful. I mean, maybe useful in somebody else's world, but really aren't meaningful and therefore not useful to you. So you're not doing what you love, you're doing what you think should work. And so this is an epidemic in human society. Why? Because for such a long time, only certain things would work. If you got a 40-hour job and you worked it for 40 years, then you can retire, right? 40-hour a week job, right? So those things are changing. Are we able to see how they're changing? Are we able to be present with what's happening in this now time and space and do something about it? Right? So that's the question. That's what's up for now, right? I want to do something real quick so I can, just seeing what's slowing down my system because I feel like I might be getting some lag on your side. So I'm going to fix that, hopefully. That's what I'm doing right now. Okay. So what do we get from this understanding? What do we understand better so that we can really delve into the essence of the genius and let that come to full fruition? One of the things is that it becomes an energy field. This is part of just the collective energy of people, and that gets instigated by things like the news, and it makes you want to turn away from what's really happening. On the repressive side of this frequency, when this energy is trying to be, you're trying to repress it and not pay attention to it, it makes us gullible. So when I'm experiencing this, I'm believing the hype. I'm believing that the world's gonna fall apart in 5 to 10 days and that there's no point in doing anything about it. Now I can just do whatever I want and let the world crumble around me, right? Instead of actively participating, actively building what I'm interested in, right? It's this feeling of buying into information that makes us feel powerless. And so if we're buying into it, it's out of this indifference. Well, if I'm indifferent in the way that I I'll let it be true that I can't do anything about it, then it creates this inability to respond, right? And on the reactive side, it looks like, still trying to get the camera right. So on the reactive side, it looks like being self-deluded. This is this idea that you can create something so perfect that it's infallible. I see this all the time in business because they're constantly talking about foolproof methods, you know, the one system that will make everybody a millionaire. This is kind of what people try to say. And the truth is, that's not how it works. There's a way in which you become a millionaire that other people may not work for them, right? So we always want that kind of, there may be a system, but we also want that system to be partly born of our own essence and our own ability to tap in and to enjoy what we're doing, right? So if we're in this self-deluded, you're believing your own propaganda that the system will do it for you. You don't have to be personally invested with your own creativity, your own ideas, right? You can just use AI and just let it go, right? Now, I love AI and I've been using it a ton with ChatGPT lately. And at the same time, I'm always like kind of double checking it. Am I really tuned into this? Is it really what I want to say, or is it, am I just like giving it up and not being indifferent to how it comes out as long as it's good enough, right? Well, if something helping me at that level, it can be exactly what I want it to be, right? If it doesn't take me another 2 days to rewrite an email, why not make it as closely aligned to what I really mean, what I'm really trying to communicate as possible? And that's the fun to me of having these assisted features, like, and even structures. And of course, one of mine is astrology. I love the structure of astrology. I love how it makes it easy to go through the different perspectives of a human experience and say, how am I relating here? And how does, how does my chart line up with what is true about me and how I'm living my experience of life, right? I love that. But if I'm only depending on the astrology, which I can delve and like look at 1,000 different kinds of charts, 1,000 different ways to see what's really behind the thing, that's when it becomes just another way to hide. Just another way to hide from really tapping into what I can create from myself with the clarity and the understanding that I have right now from the life I've lived up until now, right? And with the dreams of the future, right? Like that's a wholly different way of approaching it. So the full potential when we're living in that present moment, allowing ourselves to have an experience. If you remember, we had this key last year, I think, for a full moon, which is kind of, how things flow. Like we usually get one of each sign every year. And when it was last time was in the full moon, we talked about how you can't be enthusiastic, which enthusiasm is the name of this in one of the translations of the I Ching. It's the name of the 16 hexagram. And when we're thinking about enthusiasm, Richard Rudd talks about how you have to actually have an experience in order to feel or be enthused with the energy and the joy of the experience. You have to actually do something, right? So in the full moon, it was this approach where that came up for me, where it's like, okay, are we allowing ourselves to live the full experience? Or are we assuming we know what the experience is going to be and then dismissing it, right? So we had to let go of these ideas of what we think can happen or will happen if something is absolutely perfection, right? Um, so there's that inner wisdom that we can tap into when we're living in that presence and we're connecting to ourselves and understanding the full potential of the moment. So you don't want to let society confuse that for you. So, how do we make this genius happen? How do we turn it into something fabulous, right? That energy of indifference. Right? I know this energy well. I can be very indifferent. Ask my friends and clients, right? Like I can be very indifferent. How is that a skill? No, it's well, maybe it's a skill, and maybe I built it when I wasn't thinking about it, but mostly it's just part of who I am. Like I just have a really easy, if the investment is not perceivably worth it, I just kind of tune out a little bit. It's not the way to do it. That is my shadow. So just so you know, that is the reflection of the shadow. So if I'm turning it into genius, what I do is I get enthusiastic about what's possible from this now moment, even in the flaws of my experience, even if something looks like it's going horribly wrong according to the structure and the plan that was supposed to be in place, can I still be excited about this now moment? Right. And that's one of my things that I enjoy to do when I'm performing is I love, like, because something's always going to go wrong in a live performance. Something's always going wrong. Like somebody's messing up somewhere at some point. It's happening. Okay. If not, life itself interfering, babies crying, people walking in, people going to the bathroom, right? Like it's something's always happening. So how can I stay present to the full possibility of creation in that moment, regardless of all the fun twists and turns along the way? That's part of the skill in and of itself. Can I just tune in and make this moment and not make it, but allow it to be its highest potential, regardless of the expectation up until now, right? So I'm going to read you a quote from the book that's about the versatility genius, okay? The quote is, versatility is not a skill. It is a state of frequency that can use a skill without being fully identified with it. This is the level at which skill becomes talent. Talent happens when a certain skill has been mastered. With the talent, you no longer have to think about the skill, and a whole new world opens up to you. So, this is my joy in teaching people how to be in the present moment when they're speaking or performing, right? Because there's the skill that allows you to be well prepared for that moment, but then it's how we greet that moment. How capable are we of being in that moment that allows us to be in that full potential of making it an exponential transcendent experience, right? And that's where true connection happens. That's where you there can not be forgotten. That's being unforgettable, because nobody can forget an experience that makes them feel like they're living on the edge of life. This is why we love seeing people at their best and their skills just going above and beyond. Like, this is why people are excited about seeing the finals of the NBA, right? You get to see people at the top of their game with the biggest challenges, the biggest interruptions, with like other people who are extremely talented, keeping them from their teammates or keeping them from making the basket. I'm so sportsy, right? Um, but all of those things are happening. And so often they're doing these amazing things. Like, the first times we've seen Michael Jordan floating through the air, apparently, that the way that people can remove, like reposition themselves in midair. That's like, no wonder people pay to see that, right? That's versatile. That's going beyond what we think any one thing can get us to. Any one skill, being able to jump, being able to make a basket, it's not going to give you that transcendent moment where like time seems to freeze and they're floating by like twin hands trying to interrupt the way that they get to the basket, right? That's just, there's nothing like it. And when we step into the moment for our presence and what we are trying to communicate with others, it'll be the same way. You just magically pick up on the words that will help people to tune in and to receive what you are offering. And the other kind of component to this genius is that you get to pick up any skill you need. So instead of thinking, oh, I have a limitation because I can't learn this thing that takes mastery, you think, oh, actually, I can just do it in this way and I'll use it in this way so that it becomes just a natural component of getting to the result instead of a new skill separate from everything else that's happening. And then you just dive into that. So that's something else that I do. Like, I'll just dive into one thing and then think that that's the important thing to know and master, when really I just need to know enough of it to do the thing that I meant to apply it to, right? This is why I say education is not a step of creation, right? Education is a step to the next creation. And so if we make it, like, if we put it in the way of our current creation, then we can run into some problems. Um, if you are doing that, like if you're doing any, I'll make a course alongside certain other courses, right? Or if you're creating something alongside somebody who's instructing you, just remember that you don't need the whole enchilada. You just need the why it works and work it the way you need to work it. Okay. And if you know that you can only do certain components within a certain time frame, then make it yours. Um, Allow it still the functionality of why it works to be in place, but be versatile, right? So doing something that feels good to you while it's serving others as well is part of this genius. This is not something where you're just like, oh, I'm going to pick up this strategy because everybody says it works. And like 10 people were millionaires and they don't look like likely millionaires. So it must work. It must be guaranteed. Right. And then you get into it and you're absolutely miserable. You can't remember what you were trying to do in the first place. You're just in this other person's world. Right. Like that doesn't feel good, right? So how can we stay in tune with the feeling goodness, why we're doing it in the first place, what's exciting about it to us, and then if the tools will get us there, we can tune in with excitement and presence, and it won't feel like struggling to learn. It'll feel like, ooh, I can do it this way. And it'll feel like a aha, like a new discovery, right? So this ability of this frequency is this field where you can literally tune in to any gift you want. So any skill you want, any talent you want for whatever, for what is your highest goal? What is the truth of what you want to be up to in this now moment? It's powerful, right? So instead of tuning into the conditioned field of negativity, and it can only work the way it's worked before for 1,000 years under the rule of man, right? You can condition it to the frequency of your truth, what works for you, what works for the world that you want to create and live in moving forward into the future. And that is the power of this genius that's available right now. And when you move into the mastery level, which is the Siddhi, this is actually why all siddhis are a form of mastery. And all siddhis, Siddhi, that final essence of the frequency, is they define each other in so many different ways, right? So mastery, one of my favorite siddhis, Siddhi, is the Siddhi of a quintessence, which is the essential essence. I just love that. It's like the it's like the higher dimension of essence, right? That's that essence squared, right? And I already love the word essence, so it just makes me think of quintessence as the next thing to being elemental, which to me, elements are so powerful because they create everything, right? Everything has an aspect of fire or water or air or ether. It is powerful. So I think when you say call something elemental, you're calling it vital to the creation of all things, right? So having quintessence be a form of mastery. So mastery is the quintessence of skill beyond any one functionality, beyond any one process. It's you take it and you make it your own. So you are no longer affixed to a single discipline, but begin to view life at a holistic level, seeing how all systems and techniques interconnect in a truly integral way. So that's powerful. Now, what I want you to do is to apply this to your own what's going on with you. So I got a couple prompts for you for your legacy prompt for today, in creating your legacy under this new moon in Gemini. Ask yourself, where am I depending on what works that is no longer a great experience and not necessarily working? Right? Like if it's working and there's parts, if it's working, then there's parts of it that work and that you can continue to be excited about. But the parts that aren't working and the parts that you're not excited about, then you have the ability to be versatile with the parts that aren't working for you. You totally get to do that. Full permission. Okay. All right. And then the second journal prompt for your legacy is, where do I transcend into genius with my skills and offerings? And how can I share more of that? Right. So where do I turn into my genius? So one of the components of my genius is to be able to tap into the now moment and freestyle. So one of the things I love to do is live production. So I do my summit live, I do my podcast live, And so live components are part of what I'm sharing with people because I want them to know, like, yeah, I have a plan, but do I have a script? Very rarely. Like, I may have words here and there, but even those are prompts for me. They're how am I going to focus on what I'm tapping into to receive what wants to be said next, right? And that's why I feel a lot of times, like if you ever listen to one of the interviews that somebody else interviews me on YouTube, you just put in my name, there's a ton of them, and you'll see like I get like kind of a deer in headlights look sometimes. And then all of a sudden I say something brilliant, right? And it's not because I'm all the time brilliant. I plan brilliance and brilliance happens because of my excellent structure and planning. It's because I have to let go of knowing what's going to work in order just to be able to bring up a word that may be relevant. And so, what it's made me really powerful at is letting go what I think needs to happen or how to say the right thing. And that's why I teach it, right? I teach you to go beyond what we should be doing. So, how are you going to embody this? This is a beautiful time and frequency transit to get present to how we're really feeling about the components, the different parts of what we are creating in our lives, in our business. You know, thinking about that point, how are you stressing yourself out because of something that you think has to be a certain way? Okay. So, what I want you to do right now is to think about something that has been challenging for you. Maybe it's a big, big challenge that just, I don't know if it's, I want you to think about this more of like what keeps coming up that keeps throwing you off your game, that takes you out of flow, that takes you out of high feelings, you know, and vibration, right? What puts you off your game, and how, and has it happened several times over the last week? Focus on that. What are we, you know, what is that for you? For those who need a little more time to figure that out and want to come back to this or pause it later, I'll go ahead and state mine. So I'll say it. What's come up over this week? It's been a really good week. Getting it right. So I've been doing recordings for my audios for my voice study that I'll be revealing how that goes pretty soon. And so I've been wanting to get it right on the first take. And I've just kind of let go a little bit of this. I'm going to get it right because I'm the improvisational master, right? I'm not, but it's part of my genius, right? When I'm in that flow, it happens sometimes. And so when I don't necessarily have to do it that way, right? And when I'm audio recording, I don't have to do it that way. They're not long enough audios where I kind of just have to submit to an almost good thing, right? I can say, think about how I really want to say it. It's still going to come out improvised, but it will be deeper and deeply meant if I really focus on how I want to do it. So that's a lot of explanation for me just to say what my biggest challenge this week was just letting it happen and letting myself repeat it if I felt it was a good idea. Like it's okay. I can do it again. I can perfect it, right? Not being locked into any one process or way of doing things, right? So I'm going to think about that and how it would come up and be like, do I really want to do it again? I should know how to improvise. I should just accept it as it is in that current perfection, right? So I'm going to feel that in my body, and we're going to do a little Omas method, okay? So I'm just going to think about how I felt in that moment of that challenge. I'm going to breathe all the way out, focusing on my belly, and I'm going to think through my perineum, through my feet, and through the floor into the earth. I do S's with my method just to feel those muscles that are helping us do it. Breathing back into the lower belly. Still thinking that was pretty challenging. It felt challenging. Why was it so challenging? Right. And then this time, when we do this breath, we're going to do the exact same thing again. But instead of just breathing the breath out on the second breath out, we're going to hum. It's going to be a sound that is an ah behind M. So what you'll hear from me is probably just humming, right? I'm going to actually turn on my original sound from musician so you can hear that. Otherwise, it'll cut it out. So I'm going to turn that on real quick. And then together, we're just thinking about our challenge and we're breathing out. And we're going to do a hum with an ah behind it, breathing back into our lower bellies. And I still feel like I'm feeling a little bit of that tension from the challenge. And I'm also starting to feel some other movement and some loosening in my hips and some other things that's happening as a result. So this is a way to just get present with what is real, what's happening in the present moment, so we can have a right action. So we can have a right action for what's next. So if we're running too far, if we're trying to become indifferent to what's not helping or what doesn't feel good to us, and we're running out, well, I guess back into our comfort zones as a result, then this is what we want to work on. Okay, we want to start bringing some new energy in, some new vibration, and this transit is a beautiful time to do it. So remember, we're not here to react to stars. We're here to weave their frequency, wisdom into our leadership, our creativity, and our lives. I invite you to breathe it in, sound it out, and live it forward. And I'll see you on the next wave.